Today, as we continue to work on our crystal drawings, some of you might be still coloring the crystal itself, and some of you might be ready for the background. If you're ready to work on the background, I recommend making a border around the edge, like we did with the fall leaf project if you were here for that project. One of the ways we can do this is to use a ruler, hold it down so that it's parallel to the edge of the paper, and then create a line. That'll give us a nice edge so we aren't coloring over top of the edge of the paper and crinkling it, and it makes it easier to finish coloring because there's just less coloring to do. So I'll do that on all four sides. And then when I'm working on the background itself, I might want to consider using a combination of colors and making a gradient or a transition between different colors. Since we're using the watercolor pencils, that's a really nice opportunity for us to create color blends today. So I might want to choose some colors that I think are going to look good blending into each other. So for example, maybe I would choose these colors that I think look nice together. And I can start on really any edge or corner. Maybe I'll start in this lower corner here. Now in my example, I was not actually done with coloring the crystal. I would recommend you do finish the crystal before you start on the background. But just for the purpose of demonstration, if I wanted to create a color blend in like a diagonal kind of way, like I'm starting with the corner here, I'm starting with one color and coloring with it. I'm not burnishing today, I don't have to with the watercolor pencils. Then I'll go to the next color I selected. When I'm near this border I created, I'll try to color neatly. And I'm starting to overlap these colors that I chose. These two actually look extremely similar, but that's okay. My next color that I've chosen looks a little bit different, and I'm overlapping it to create this color blend. Alright, I've got some colors here I've started to overlap. You could decide if you want the same colors to then repeat or if you want to keep adding in new colors. For me, I think I'm going to make sort of a repeating pattern, but whenever I get to this edge of my crystal, which if I was really doing the background would be colored in, I want to be especially careful when I get to it that I'm coloring carefully around it. Once you've colored in the whole background and you are ready to start blending with water, I recommend today that you use a large brush that is almost all the way dry. The reason we're using a large brush is it has a larger surface area and it'll be easier to use to blend the colors without messing up the brush because we want to use the tip of the brush. We never want to smash it, so we're just using the very front of the bristles. For me, I've already wiped it off. It is mostly dry, which is what we want for our artwork. If you're not sure if it's dry enough, you can always use a paper towel and just remove a little more of the water than you think you need to, because you can always go back and add more, but you can't take it away once it's there. And I'm going to blend by going in little circles to really activate the watercolor pigments, and I think it gives this a lovely color blend glow. Even though I'm going in little circles, I'm only using the very tip of the brush, so I'm not smashing it. And I'm also holding really close to the front of the brush, closer than I would usually hold, so I can continue to be really gentle. Anytime I get near this edge, I'm going to be extra careful. Likewise, I will be careful when I get near the bottom of my crystal. If you wanted to blend the colors in your crystal, you could do it the same way. Of course, whenever I get to a different color section, I would want to wash my brush in the water. So if my crystal was a bluish green at the top, I would want to wash my brush very thoroughly and then dry it again before I blend any parts of the crystal. And you may even want to do that in between each little section of the crystal so it doesn't get muddied together, so you can still see the distinct edges and all that work that you put in when coloring it originally. So I'm just continuing here to blend my watercolor pencils. You can also go back and forth. I like going in little circles because I think it disguises the pencil lines even better, but you can experiment with what works for you. Just make sure you're using the art supplies carefully so that they can last for other classes. That's why I'm not smashing my brush. That's why I'm holding it gently and swirling. It's really important that we take care of our art supplies so other students, even into the future, can use them as well. I'm very excited to see the progress that you make on your watercolor crystal artworks today.